Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for attending our session today. So we're going to be talking about 3 courses that we all teach for the Data Science and AI Academy at NC State. This might be a little bit different from some of the other sessions that you've attended because all of us have humanities backgrounds, and all of us primarily are coming from teaching in humanities disciplines. So just the obligatory, the Data Science Academy is largely funded by the NSF grant. Okay, moving on. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is the Data Science Academy at NC State, Data Science and AI Academy, excuse me, we just changed the name, at NC State, and the ADAPT model that we use in all DSA courses. We're going to talk about how we are teaching data science classes using our humanities backgrounds and centering some humanities concepts, theories, tools in these classes. And then we're going to talk about implications and recommendations of what this all means.
Thank you. And so one core question that we hope to kind of emphasize throughout our discussion here today is, why does data science need the humanities? And some additional questions for you all to think about. Maybe we'll answer them, maybe we won't. Maybe you'll get to think about it for the rest of your lives. But you can consider, what does data science mean for those disciplines that don't traditionally align themselves with this work? For me, an instance, my background is in English literature education, so teaching 12th grade Shakespeare. And so how did I end up in data science? Not sure. And how might instructors in the humanities define and teach data science? How can the humanities use data science to resist academic siloing and promote alignment across the disciplines and methodologies corresponding to those disciplines? And then what is to be gained for traditional data science programs with a transdisciplinary understanding and application of data science?
All right. So I just want to talk, one of the things we want to discuss is what's going on over at NC State. At the risk of sounding like an infomercial, we're not trying to peddle anything. Just wanted to share like how we got here. So Kelsey explained that she is a K through 12 Shakespeare scholar. My background is in medieval studies. I study manuscripts. I do DNA analysis on manuscripts. So coming in didn't seem very intuitive. But the DSA wants everyone, the idea was that all of the colleges across the university have access to data science and see the value in data science, whether it is our, the intuitive groups like School of Business, School of Engineering, but also College of Social Science and Humanities, or Humanities and Social Science, CHAS, right. So one of the main parts, next one, please, thank you. One of the things that we came up with, and I was one of the first postdocs, I was the first postdoc of the Data Science Academy, we came up with this model called the ADAPT model. And it is essentially that everyone has access to data science, and they're short classes, 1 hour a week, low intensity, meant to expose students to data science, again, across all 10 colleges. And so the ADAPT model is, broken down into 3 main, concepts. So first we have workforce preparedness. So we want students to go out into the workforce, whether they're coming from a history background, social science background, statistics background, with some knowledge of data science that they can incorporate into their job interviews, into their work, into their research. We want students to not feel stress about how they approach data science. So we don't do quizzes, we don't do tests. It is all building up to final projects at the end of the semester. So with me, and I'll talk about my class in a little bit, it is 3 steps, 3 different visualizations that they make that eventually contribute to a larger research poster. And then we have these 10 common learning elements. Everything from, what is a data scientist? What does a data scientist look like? What preconceived notions do we have about data science, all the way to data science needs to incorporate, or data science courses need to incorporate concepts such as ethics, accessibility, some words we can't use anymore, but essentially that everyone has access to data science. Right. All right, so I'll talk first about my class and my experiences with that, and then I'll pass it off. So since the very beginning, so this is now my 8th semester, 9th semester teaching data visualization. I love it. I love talking about the history of data visualization. That's part of the joy of coming from a humanities background, is that students think that spreadsheets are the beginning of, or pivot tables are the beginning of data visualizations, when I can show them, no, here's papyrus with visualization on it. Here are tally sticks. Here are medieval books that actually have bar charts in them. So that's a fun part of this class. The learning objectives, again, some of these are intuitive, the basics of visualization, organizing and documenting data, having students think about what data means and what data curation means and what this term cleaning actually means when you're talking about everything from non-Roman alphabets to removing accents from names to, if there's any Hamilton fans here, who gets to tell your history, right? Or who gets to tell your story? As data scientists, we have a responsibility, and I kind of push this, and I think all of us push this with our students, is that their responsibility is to treat data not as fact, but as evolving, I guess, moments, or however you want to define the data set, right? So they understand that they are responsible for what they produce and the narrative that they curate. All the way down to, again, accessibility and using open source tools to create visualizations, such as Tableau, Gephi, and then down to Python and R. So I put this up here, I have the QR code, it's open access. This was developed by a former postdoc at NC State. She has sadly gone on to a university with a different colored blue, but she's still doing very well. But she helped develop this, and I think if you click on that, it should click on the graphic here.
Oh, apologies.
There we go. Okay, so what we wanted to do when we're teaching Python and R is to kind of teach them the same way that I would teach MLA versus APA citation format. If you see them side by side and see how they're different and how you can compare them side by side, we found out that this was the best way for students who are scared, nervous to learn coding, how they can see the differences between R and Python. So in here, Zarifa set up this entire thing about how you can click on these links. It'll take you to pause it to work on R. She has an entire script on here for Python. Again, creating the same or similar visualizations using two different languages. And through this, students can then fill in their own blanks. They can manipulate the data to kind of see how the coding works. I don't know how everyone else learns Python. I learn it by making changes and see what it does to the visualizations. And that kind of, for me, that was very helpful. There's also a section up here, if you click on the ethics, entire section on how we kind of promote ethical use of data in the Data Science Academy. So, like I said, if you feel free to use this in your classes or look over it or just say, I can make it better. We want you to improve on some of this stuff. So whatever you want to do, that would be fantastic. Well, as we're getting this up, I realize I have some examples I want to show you. So in my data science classes, the project, as I was talking about, the final project, is we have students create research posters. So not only are they then making visualizations, but they have to tell a story. So at NC State, I have student examples here. So this is one that people create. I let them choose their own data set. I kind of lead them in a direction using Kaggle or Corgis because they're clean data sets and it's faster and easier for students to use. But they choose their own research. They choose their own direction. They have to come up with research questions. So I love this for the Data Science Academy. Now, I've also started to use data science in my literature classes at CBU in Memphis. So this class that I taught was World Lit 2. I had half of the class were high school students taking a college credit class, and the other portion, maybe even like 30%, were CBU college students. And so they had to analyze text. So this is an example of, we read Frankenstein. They had to come up with a research question. I taught them Tableau. I taught them basics of Python, a little bit of R, and they had to create a visualization poster using at least 5 of the 3 tools, and one of those tools had to be either R or Python. So this is just one example that this was 3 students, 2 of them were high school students, came up with. The next one is an example of them using, I know it's maybe if you've read these texts, you're like, why would he teach high school students Metamorphosis and Mad Forest about the Romanian Revolution? But they enjoyed it, and they were able to play around with it. And again, the visualization that they created would rival, I'm going to say this honestly, would rival the products that my NC State students, some of them graduate students, have created. So I was really proud of the work they did. Again, showing how data science and humanities don't have to be completely siloed. All right.
Okay, hi. So, me again. I'm going to be talking to you about the course that I created for the Data Science Academy called Intro to AI Ethics. We're in the second year that it's been offered. The graphic on the screen, actually the word cloud, comes from the very first survey that we sent out in that class about why students were taking it. I had 17 students in that class and 6 of the 10 colleges at NC State represented, to tell you a little bit about the diversity of the courses or of the students that I get in that class. So we have 4 simple learning objectives in the course because the course actually serves 2 purposes. It introduces them to AI and ethics. At the same time, I have students in that class who have created their own AI chatbots. I have students in that class who have never used an AI before. And so we're starting from very disparate positions, and everybody gets on the same page very quickly when it comes to talking about AI ethics. We also are a qualitative research methods course, and I think I'm the only qualitative research methods class within the Data Science and AI Academy. And that's for a couple of different reasons. You'll see the last learning objective up here addresses that. The big one is that use of AI is well documented in quantitative research. It's not very well documented in qualitative research, and there are reasons for that. There is the fact of sitting across the table from someone doing an interview with that person and gathering that data is something that AI just can't do right now because it's not embodied in that way yet. So it opens up other avenues for conversation just for the fact that we're doing qualitative research. So the course has 4 major components to it. The first is a news update. I create the reading lists for this course about a month before they start, which means by the end of that semester, it is outdated because it's AI. So what we do is I have some foundational readings, like what is a learning algorithm, that isn't really going to change in the course of that semester. But then the students actually generate the rest of the reading list. So they come up with ethical concerns that have popped up in the prior 6 months or currently. It's been an interesting couple of semesters teaching this class, I'll tell you that much. And they present just a 2-minute update at the start of class. And that kicks us off so that by the end of the course, not only do they know about what's currently going on with AI, but they can also talk about the ethical side of it. So the second component is what I call an AI test exercise. I have them use AI specifically in a way that is borderline unethical or flat out unethical. I have them try and see if it will violate copyright law, for example. Write a new chapter of a book that you've read, something like that. And then they reflect on what that means and whether or not they actually felt it was ethical. This serves 2 purposes. 1, it gets them thinking about what they're actually using it for. And 2, it actually gets them using the AI. So those students that I mentioned that had never used an AI before, this gets them using it, and it's due like the 3rd week of class. So we get everybody up to speed quickly. We also do a lot of exercises in class using AI, playing with it. For the academics in this room, I know every college, I think, out there and university is making us put AI policies in our syllabi. Mine just says, play with it, have fun, tell me how you used it. Pretty much, because that's the point of this class, right? So we're doing a lot of that each week. And then finally is their qualitative research project. They partner up with one other student. They have to create their own study. They have to figure out their sampling methodologies. They have to figure out what questions they're going to ask. We talk about effective questioning. They analyze the data. We do both inductive and deductive coding in the class. It is a very small project. For anybody who has done qualitative research, you know how time-consuming it can be. They do not have a large sample size on purpose, but at least it dips their toes into what that is. So all of these hopefully are springboards into future coursework or future projects for them in terms of AI ethics and or qualitative research.
Hi, everyone. I am now talking about a class that I will not be teaching again because as we are talking about AI ethics, this class is a little too unethical for me to feel comfortable teaching. But I'm sharing it with you all in case you do have an ethical way to teach it. And then you can go and improve it and help your students learn and grow and blossom. But the class is storytelling with data and AI. So as an English teacher, someone that's invested in stories and the power of literature, I was really interested to see how can we use data science as a way to help foster storytelling with students. And so in collaboration with an AI artist, I designed this course, and it was really reliant upon data and AI literacy, creative computing, and taking students' personal, small, messy data, turning that into a prompt that they could give to an AI generator, and then creating an image output. And then they would compare their lived experience to that which AI would render. And the objective and the hope was that AI could never possibly capture what their lived experience was like. But in fact, it could sometimes. It was often very messy. And then AI was also creating memories and memoir moments that were very speculative too. And in that way, it was very novel and exciting for the students. So with that, there were 4 core class components, the first one being readings. These were centered on thematic concepts like data feminism, data humanism, AI ethics, AI environmental concerns, which is a reason why this course will not be taught in the future. The data diary project, which was a semester-long project where students had to create at least twice a week a different AI instance of their lived experience and then reflect on if AI did a good job of documenting their lived experience. We had in-class studio days, so this is inspired by a lot of art and design colleges. We were inspired by how they have actual hands-on workshop days. So we would have entire lessons led by our AI artist instructor, Aline Yalkinkaya, who would teach students how to create with AI in an artistic and creative and critical way. And lastly, students engaged in a practice called the story of self, where they used AI as a tool to tell a story of themselves, of someone else, of a self. But a big goal of all these courses that we have shared with you is that data represents real life. It is a snapshot of the world in the same way that a picture catches a small moment in time. And so for sake of time, we're going to talk very quickly about our implications, including how complementing traditional data science courses is what can happen when we have these humanities-centered, humanities-filled, humanities-inspired opportunities.
And the second, and I think really big one, is to broaden data science's reach. Right? So we all have humanities backgrounds, although my undergraduate is CIS. I was a programmer in industry for a little while before I jumped ship to English. And so the idea here is that there may be other folks at your respective institutions, whether that's in industry or in higher ed, that are doing data science or data science adjacent work that can benefit your students in data science programs. And so higher ed tends to be very siloed, and I think we 3 embody what it means and what it does when those silos come down for a little bit. So I know I've had students, like I said in my AI class, coming from outside of the traditional data science disciplines who then go on to pick up a data science minor. And so a lot of the times these courses are, for lack of a better term, gateway courses into data science for students who wouldn't normally think of themselves as data scientists. Same thing with faculty. So our recommendations for the future are to have those conversations, reach out across disciplines to folks who wouldn't normally be in conversation with you about data science, and see where there might be opportunities to collaborate for them to come in and teach maybe for your own program and things like that. So that's it for us. Thank you very much.